Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And you may notice this is not my face you're looking at, but rather Ray LIOTTA. Ray is one of the characters in my favorite movie, Field of Dreams. And as I was watching it the other day, I couldn't help but be really compelled to go look at his natal chart and the chart of the transits as he crossed over on May 26, 2022. So I'm going to stop sharing his face and start sharing his chart with you. Give me just a minute here. Here we go. All righty. So let me do this because I was looking at some things. Okay, so this is the chart of his natal chart is here in the inner wheel, and the outer wheel are the transits that were going on at the time that he was in the Dominican Republic shooting his last movie, and apparently passed away in his sleep. So, and I do think he did pass away in his sleep, and I believe it was a heart attack. Let's just talk about some of the first things that I noticed. Transiting Saturn is right here, and it is in his third house, which is interesting to me because he would be considered of a Saturnian age at this time, being 67 years old. He was working on a team of people shooting a film. We see here that the transiting Saturn is in an opposition to his natal Pluto in the 9th house of foreign travel, in Leo, the house of actors and performers. We also see that it is making a square to transit South Node in the 12th house of Scorpio. Scorpio ruled by Pluto. Pluto again ruling death and rebirth. And the South Node in the 12th house of Scorpio is also a very, an energy of loss. And in the 12th house here, it would definitely be, could be loss of life. The 12th house is when we go back into the collective. We also see that transiting Saturn is also in a square to Mercury retrograde in Taurus in his 6th house. So this here in the house of teammates is squaring obviously the North Node, but this transiting Mercury, which to me is again kind of putting a button on the idea of in a team setting, in a work setting, where he is speaking and performing. That's what he does. I also want to say that this Mercury is making a square to his natal Pluto, again in the house of the performers. All this is a lot of friction and tension in an area and in a dynamic that rules life force. This opposition would be ruling life force, meaning Pluto is opposing his longevity here. We also have to remember that Uranus is the co-ruler of Aquarius, and that'll come into play in a minute. And then we have the square to the nodes here as they transit Taurus and Scorpio. The second thing I thought was very interesting is his natal Chiron here in the 2nd house of Capricorn, making a conjunction to Pluto retrograde, which is in the 2nd house of making money. And it is making a direct opposition, both of these planets exact to Jupiter, which rules foreign travel, Uranus, which rules sudden, unexpected events and explosions. The Cancer dynamic rules nurturing, So while it's not necessarily Leo and the heart, to me, I just see this as Cancer representing the heart attack in some ways, because of the whole dynamic of Capricorn ruling his Chiron. We talked about the Saturn aspects already. And I just feel like this right here speaks of a heart attack in a foreign country that crosses me over, this whole dynamic here. And then we see that we also have his natal Chiron making this T-square to Neptune in the 11th house cusp, 10th, 11th house cusp. For again, I see Neptune as an energy that is, egoless in some ways, ruling the 12th house. I think it can rule a certain amount of loss. It rules emotions. It also rules fantasy and film. So this is very fascinating to me. And speaking of his natal Neptune, let's click on that, because as we see it making this square to his natal Chiron, it's also triggering this transit with Pluto, as well as the natural square of Neptune to Jupiter and Uranus, which we know is making an opposition to transit Pluto. We also see that Neptune is making an opposition to Venus in Aries and the moon. These are the transits. Now the moon's zipping by, no doubt. So I use the time of 10 o'clock. So this may not be accurate, but I'm pretty sure this transit Venus is accurate. And this feels like a loss of self in the house of creation, my self-creation, the natural house of Leo, the natural house of performers. It almost feels like when I first saw that he had passed away, I felt like, oh my goodness, this seems so out of whack. But at the same time, when I look at these transits now, I feel like the soul has certain doorways throughout its lifetime that if it chooses to, for lack of a better term, abort this life's mission, it can exit. And this feels very much like an exit point that he has chosen. Finally, let's go to his natal Pluto and click on that. The natal Pluto is making squares to this Venus and the North Node, Mercury and the North Node in the house of work. It's also making an opposition to Saturn, as we discussed earlier, and it's making a square to the nodes in general. So to me, it's saying very much that there was the possibility that while he was traveling, because I also see Mercury in the first house of the 22nd degree, and Mercury, according to some astrologers, the 22nd degree is a challenging degree to kill or be killed. It's a potential of losing of the physical body. So I see really most significantly for me is this dynamic between transit Pluto and the natal Jupiter and Uranus, the Chiron making again an opposition and then a square to Neptune. I feel in many ways that him crossing over was in some ways grandly designed by his soul to leave doing what he loves, to leaving in a way that seems very benign on some level. Meaning, my father passed away of a heart attack. You probably don't know that, but it's quick, down and dirty. And it feels very much like this is something that he chose. on a soul's level. I can't help but think of that Chiron dynamic, and I can't help but wonder if he didn't, on an intuitive level, as I see Chiron here in the second house, even though it's Capricorn, with this idea of being in the house of Cancer here, if there wasn't some sort of maybe a precursor, or him knowing or feeling some sort of expansion or anxiety as he was aging, this whole T-square. And if you think about it, most of the people that were of teen or 20 in their 20s during the 60s, they partied. So the idea of Neptune from a party situation could potentially, he could have worn his body out initially, meaning his body may not have been in its optimum and its prime at that moment. So I found that to be very interesting for me. I don't know what you think about it. I don't normally do these celebrity readings, but as I've been studying the South Node in the natal chart, and here he's got his South Node in the house of contractual partnerships in the sign of Cancer. Not that that has anything to do with him crossing over, but it's naturally, Cancer is ruled by the moon. The moon is in Libra. I don't know how much this has to do with him crossing over either, but the nodal structure here, and the transit nodal structure, feels to me like he was walking through a gateway and pretty much took the opening. The last thing I want to say, I realize I'm getting a little choppy here, but as I look at the charts, they kind of start to pop at me. We have his natal Venus and we have his natal Saturn, both in Scorpio, and they are making a loose conjunction to the South Node in the 12th house. They're both technically in the 11th house, but we can see, as doing this in Placidus, that they're very close to the house cusp. So I think this has a contributing factor, making money and losing your sense of self. And then Saturn ruling restriction and limitation, and the South Node representing loss. So that's kind of, I don't know if it's an assessment or an evaluation, but to me, it sheds a little bit of light as to why this happened. And rather than looking at outside influences affecting him, seeing this sort of as a karmic moment in time for him to either stay or go. And I do find that a lot of men that are mid-century modern, and that's what I like to refer to, people born in the 40s and the 50s, and even the 60s, is that I don't know how much they really wanted to grow into old men in the old body and feel that process of aging. So I almost feel like this might have been a choice of his. I do believe that Ray Liotta was a smoker. I can't confirm that, but there's something in the back of my head that thinks that might be contributing to that as well. So I don't know. Very interesting to me. I just wanted to throw this up for you to look at and to muse along with me. I'd love to hear your comments and see if you see anything else in the chart that you find of interest in regards to this particular closing of a chapter for the soul known as Ray Liotta in this lifetime. And again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I look forward to your comments. If you like these kind of videos or celebrity videos, I don't mind looking at them. Again, this is something I did because Ray was a pivotal character in a movie that was really, really impactful for me in this lifetime. So thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll be back soon. Take care. Peace out.